some of my core pieces here that I've made. And this really simplifies part of my modeling process. Now what I can do is I can come in here and I can start moving these pieces and manipulating them, putting them around my rocket engine, and to see what I come up with. Okay. This is the part that's sort of fun, because now with all these pieces done, I can start coming up with different ideas and solutions. I like that being offset like that a little bit to the side, because it feels like it's in some type of important tank. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. What I'm going to do is scale this one down a little bit more, and then go to the vertices. Oops, I need to click my independent selection there. And then I could take these vertices, and I'm going to make this one maybe a little bit longer. Still want to scale it down a little bit. I'm trying not to hit F8, because some of those hotkeys alter what Camtasia is doing. So there, that's pretty cool. I like what's happening there. Okay, I'm going to come in here, and actually, let me see how I group that. Did I group that together? Yes, I did. I'm going to duplicate that, and then I'm going to see if I can't use, I'm going to ungroup it. So come up here really quick, edit, ungroup. I'm going to take part of this support piece off and see if I can't just put that little fin in there somewhere. Okay, oops. Hold down Shift when you go to rotate. Keeps it squared up. I look in my channel box there, type in 90 degrees. Negative 90, that is. I get that squared up to where I want it to be. Okay, I move that over. I slide it into place right here. And that looks pretty cool. I can put that right in there. And you guys, these are just sort of my baby steps. Okay, I can rearrange things once I get them organized in a particular format. I like that little canister shape there. What if I come over here and put this down to about, let's say about there. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the vertices on this. I'm going to move these down a little bit like so. Get them down to about there. So I'm starting to get the feel of a rocket engine now. Now I'm going to grab my pipes here that I already have grouped. Make sure I have them on the hierarchy selection, because I did group them, right? And I come in here, I'm going to take this pipe here, I'm going to rotate it up. Okay, place this at 90 degrees. Okay, bring it on over here and take a look and see where I could possibly connect that. Now, if I feel like my scale is a little large on that, that's okay. I can still modify it and adjust it. I could just, what I'm going to do is duplicate this, take this one right here. I'm just going to scale it down right now and get it to be a little bit skinnier. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and rotate it at sort of an offset angle like this. I'm going to put this at about negative 45 degrees. Okay, then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to see how I can plug that in to maybe part of my tank here. Okay, but I might hit part of my rocket engine there. That's okay. So I'm going to get this lined up here, pull it over here, maybe pull it out a little bit more, a little bit like so. There we go. That's pretty good. So it's hitting my tank there, so what I can do is come down and grab my vertices here real quick. Select these vertices. I'm going to go ahead and grab this up, and I can put one hose just like that if I want. Now I might come in here, make another modification. Okay, I might grab this little tube guy right here and put another tube over here in between, and then put another hose on that. And what I'm going to do from this point on is just continue to move little parts around and duplicate them and modify them to make what looks like my little engine contraption part to my rocket here. Okay, bring this down here. You'd be amazed by reusing parts, some of the cool shapes that you could create. Might get that down to about here. Now let's say I wanted to grab a hose and have it fit into part of the rocket engine right here. Okay, there's another way I could do that I'll show you guys in the next class. But what I'm going to do right now is, just to save myself some time, I'm going to go ahead and grab this upper one that I already created right here. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to put it back in its axes so it's easier to see. Okay, I'm going to bring it back here a little bit. What I'm going to do is go into face selection. Okay, I'm going to delete all these faces right here. even more. Yeah, that's pretty good right there, let's say. Okay, I have those deleted. Okay, I'm going to come back in. Oh, there's a couple I missed. Let me right click back to face, select these faces here. You know what, I'm going to have to back up. Those didn't all delete at the same time. So I want to make sure I get those all to go. What I might do really quick here is just edit, ungroup my object. Come on, Maya. Ungroup again. Let's try that one more time. Edit, ungroup. There it goes. Wouldn't ungroup there. I got an error message. I don't know what was happening. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this, take the faces on this. I'm going to delete all those faces right there. Okay, they're gone. Now I'm going to go ahead then and select, center my pivot on these objects. Select both these objects. I'm going to group them together. Center the pivot, and then I'm going to grab this object and see if I can't bring it back and get this to fit somehow underneath that little canister piece right there. Okay, about there, let's say. Okay, I'm going to pull it back. Okay, there. So now it sort of disappears inside the interior part of that. So if I want to, if I want to get it perfectly centered, what I can do is I can grab some of the vertices here really quick and I can move them over a little bit. We won't even notice it or see it. I could even delete those faces if I wanted to, but for right now I'm just going to keep working. Okay, and I have this, I can put a little tube there, a little canister, and make it look like it's attached to the base of my rocket, and I can just keep working from this point on. Let me go back and take this little tube here, this little canister shape that I had. Rotate this one. Oops, I didn't hold shift down. Grab it from the red. There we go. Type in 90 degrees. I get it exactly where I want it. I'm going to drop it down right now. And this is going to be a real small piece here. So again, I'm trying to, even though the geometry is getting a little bit green, it's a little bit heavier now that I've made it smaller, that's okay. I can still use it to my benefit. And put that right on the end there. There, and it looks like some cool little piece that adapts to part of that. Okay, so now I could keep coming in here and I could just keep expanding off a part of my engine. One thing I've noticed already is that all these components I'm building on right here are starting to get very massive, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select these guys, okay, and these, okay, and I'm going to group them together and I'm going to make them a little bit smaller on my engine. And then after I scale them down, I'm going to sort of position them back and see where they fit. That feels a little bit more comfortable to me because I don't want it to overwhelm my rocket engine, right? I don't want it. I want the engine to come off as a really cool engine shape. Okay, so and I'm going to come back in here and put detail on there in a little bit. So after I scale that down, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to ungroup that, and then come back in here and just keep modifying more of my engine. So I want to come in here and see what other elements I might be able to use, or if I want to create any new shapes. Okay, let me duplicate this guy. I'm going to bring this up in here, bring him out, and since I went ahead and scaled everything down, I'm going to do that same thing right now. I'm going to go ahead, rotate him off at an angle like this, put him at 90 degrees. I'm going to scale him down a little bit more. You notice I already have that other shape with the other end next to it, so I don't want those to look too similar. So what I might do is come in here and do like a quick extrusion on him. So I might put that piece there. Even though I've beveled this edge, I can still modify this shape. I just have to be careful in the way that I do it. So what I might do right now is grab some vertices here. I'm going to grab some of these and just see if I can't move them over a little bit and make it look like it's maybe a different piece. I could also grab just these upper section here and maybe bring those up. So I still have the beveled edge, but I've modified the shape and the look and the feel of the piece. Like that. So there, now I have some of those pieces there. And I'm going to go ahead, I want to attach something from there into the side of the rocket engine as well. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to do is go to independent selection, select this interior piece here. I'm going to go to my vertices here, I'm going to grab them, I'm going to bring them down right here. Now you'll notice that is going to drop inside the rocket engine right there. So I have a couple options that I could do. If I'm going to drop that shape into my rocket engine, I could come in and do a bullion, which is one option. Okay. The next option is I can go to my see-through mode here, and I can sort of grab a couple of these at a time, and I could raise them up, and just raise them up at a little bit of an angle. Okay. So this way they're not poking through. Okay. There, it's not poking through my rocket. I don't see any changes there. So now I have a cool little piece that's going inside there. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab this other hose right here. I'm going to duplicate this. Actually, I'm going to modify it first, and then I'll duplicate it. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it and figure out how to hook that up into part of my rocket engine right here. Okay. Get that sort of centered, let's say about there. And what I'm going to do is I want to create another little piece here that looks like a back mounting plate. So what I'm going to do really quick is create a cube section right here. I'm going to grab that, make that look like it's part of a back mount plate. The part of my pieces might go into. Okay, like this. And I can add some detail to that in a couple minutes here. I'm going to go ahead and go to vertices here. Select these vertices, drop them down. Try to get these two pieces to plug in together. Let's say that one goes in there pretty good. And now if I take this one, pull this guy back a little bit like this. You know what, I turn this in an angle. So now I'm seeing that angle is not really going to work right there. So just to simplify my time, I'm just going to take them, bring them over here, and come back here, put this at 180. Actually, I'm going to put it at 270, and it should rotate them back over. I'm going to go ahead and slide them in right here. Get them to about where I want them to be. I'm going to go back to vertices, okay, and right-click on this, go to vertices, independent selection. Take these vertices, I'm going to move some of these vertices down into that shape right there, okay? Pull that over a little bit. Now I'm going to add some little bits and detail here. That's off-centered there. So I'm going to go ahead and see what kind of fun I could have with this shape right here. Let's just, for fun, I'm going to grab this face here and I'm going to extrude that face out. Okay, so I had a mesh extrude. I'm going to scale it inside itself like so. And then once I get that done, edit mesh, I'm going to extrude again. I'm going to pull that piece out a little bit like that. And I'm going to go ahead and round that piece off. My goal is to really make this feel like there's some cool engine pieces here. I just had a cool idea. I had this little piece, this guy right in here that I wasn't really using. So what I'm going to do is grab him and move him back so he looks like he's right over this piece right here. Okay. Now, here's something that you can do sometimes, but it can go against you. I'm going to take a part of that piece and modify it and use it real quick. Sometimes you'll be an independent selection like this, and I'll grab that cylinder, and then I duplicate that cylinder. Let's say I want to use that cylinder right here, and I want to make it look like another pipe that's a little bit smaller. Okay, and if I grab him down, let's say I get him in position here, I grab his vertices, and now I can pull those up and make it look like they're actually coming through part of that engine block, that piece right there. Okay, and then I might even decide, you know what, I don't even want that. So I just decided I'm going to go ahead and delete these faces here. Just the top part of the faces that I don't need. I don't want that right there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the vertices, move this piece back down, get it to fit in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and scale that down and then make some other versions of that that are a little bit thinner. They look like little pipes in, you know, gas lines and good stuff like that. So there's one that's a lot thinner like so. I'm going to go ahead and scale that, get that to fit in there like that. Go ahead, duplicate that guy. I'm going to bring him back, put him on the edge right there. Might duplicate him again, make him look like he's a lot thinner right there in the back. Scale him up, take that guy, duplicate that guy again. And now it looks like I have lots of little hoses and gadgets that are part of that engine that are helping that. This part up here, it's a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to grab some of these vertices. I'm going to thin it down a little bit to about there. And I think what I'm going to do now is put a nice beveled edge on that. I'm going to select all of that shape right there. I'm going to come in here, and I don't want to bevel in the interior. Remember what will happen? That'll crash my machine, right? I just want it to go on the exterior edges. Okay, not these interior lines. So even here on this side, I don't want it to bevel that edge. Okay, so I'm going to take that bevel off right there. And before I bevel, what do I know that bevel does? Locks up my machine and crashes it, right? So I'm going to come down under here. I'm going to say File. Real quick, I'm going to save my scene again. Okay, I'm going to go to my desktop, and there's my RocketChair Parts 1, and I should have created a folder. I will do that in a second here when I finish. I'm going to save it as 2 now, so I don't lose any work. I have my edges selected that I want. I'm going to go to Edit Mesh, drop down to Bevel here, and I'm going to hit Apply. And now I just put a nice smooth little edge on all those little, on that little piece right there that looks pretty cool. Okay? And so I might come along now and think about, hey, where else can I put my hose fittings in there? You know, and how else can I modify that? Now, here's something that I noticed on my hose. You see the way it turns right in here? Well, what if I want to have it have a sharper turn? That's an easy fix. So what I'm going to do, I just need to recreate that one piece. I'm going to duplicate this piece here. I'm going to bring it over, and I'm going to say Edit. I'm going to go to Ungroup, and I'm going to ungroup this, and I'm just going to be left with that one fitting piece right there, right? I'm going to come back this time, and I'm going to make my torus again. I'm going to take my torus, and I'm going to move it up here. I'm going to rotate my torus, okay, put it at 90 degrees. I'm going to come into the poly torus selection here. Okay, and I'm going to modify this real quickly. I'm going to get this down real low. I'm going to get this down to about 2. Now, the reason why last time I had that rounded edge on it was because it was much larger like this. So if I scale it down right now and bring this a lot tighter and bring this in here, can you see how quick it makes that turn and allows me to use that shape? Does that make sense, guys? So I'm going to go ahead and increase these subdivisions, maybe even go to 30, and I'm just going to take that little quarter piece right there. Okay, so I'm going to go to Face, delete that off. There we go, get this, get that gone, that gone. Even, you know what, let me back up there. There we go. And see, now I have that little piece right there, right? See how the curve changes? So what I'm going to do is come back here, and so that felt like about the curve that I wanted. Delete those, come down here and delete this half right here. Okay, grab my vertices here and here, take my scale tool, scale them together. Okay, now I can take this little, take the pipe here itself, move it into position of where I want it. Okay, grab the vertices here, bring them down. I've now created a much smaller resed pipe in a sense, not resed. I've just has a much more lower of that curvature angle on it. Okay, take these objects here, move them into position where I want them. I have them. I'm going to select this, group this. Now I can move this over, and I can put that somewhere on my rocket engine again. It's a cool little, another little cool piece. Actually, I had the idea of putting a hose here and here that are a little bit thinner. Rocket engines have tons of hoses on them for all the different gases and pressure release, all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and square that up with the object, get it to about there. I'm going to move it in. Okay, now you'll notice my pivot point. See how it's staying with the world and its plumb? If I want to change that really quick, what I can do is double click the move tool here. Give me a second, guys. If I double click that move tool, I have right now it's on world settings, so it stays like that. But you see how I turn the object at a 45-degree angle? So now if I want to get the pivot to go with it, I just put it on the object right here. And you'll notice what the pivot just did. See that? The pivot went with the object. Now I can move it right into it. And watch what I hit when I hit world. That pivot changes back to the world setting. Okay, so if I hit object setting right now, it allows me just to grab an arrow and I can go ahead and stick that into where it fits right there. Right? And when I'm done, okay, I can come back to world setting. I want to take that same piece and put it right there. So what am I going to do? I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to go to my scale option. Okay. Go back to my move tool here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate it. I was going to scale it back over. Okay. I can take that negative 36 here, and sometimes if I go to positive, it'll flip it. But what it does, it turns it all the way over. Okay. So I'm just going to turn it to about there. Come back here, grab the object, get it into about the position that I want. That's pretty cool. And there, now I have another set of hoses in there. Okay. One thing I notice is that I don't have much detail on this guy right here, this little canister shape. So what I'm going to do to add some details, I'm going to come back in here, and I'm just going to take a simple cylinder down below. I'm going to grab that cylinder and pull it up. I'm going to hide this object. To hide an object, I select it and I hit Control H. I'm going to come back and move that in there. I'm going to go back to my top view. Okay. There's a little bit too many objects there to really see it. So I'm going to go back to perspective view. And I'm just going to sort of eyeball it from a top view to where it feels like it's correct. That feels pretty good. I'm going to scale it down. It's a little bit tighter on that left side. Okay, and I actually like it being right there. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that one. Actually, I need to adjust the inputs here. I'm going to take this from 30. I'm going to push it up a little bit so it's nice and round, doesn't have any jagged edges, right? I'm going to duplicate that piece, bring it down here, scale it up a little bit more so it pops out about right there. Okay, put it up to about there. I'm even going to make it a little bit smaller like that. I'm going to take that, duplicate that guy, put him down there, duplicate another piece, put it down right there, duplicate him, put it down again. And if you look at my canister, look at how cool my canister looks now. With that those little ring details on it. It adds a lot to the canister and gives it a lot of detail. Now you'll notice on this, that edge is hitting right here. So what I'm going to do is square it up, look through it, come down to the vertices selection right here. I'm going to select those vertices. And I'm going to go to scale. I'm going to scale them out a little bit like that so it fits that little rounded edge right there. I have that done. Okay, I'm going to take that piece, I'm going to duplicate that piece, bring it down here, and I'm going to go to scale and I'm going to inverse it back in the opposite direction. So that's this one here, scale Y. I'm going to type in a negative, it flops the piece, and then I have a little mount piece for down there. Okay, last thing I'm going to do so it stays together is I'm going to grab all these little pieces I just created, I'm going to group them and I'm going to call them detail. I group them together, I'm going to touch the canister, I'm going to group them together. I'm going to come back into my outliner right here, hit F, it pulls it up on the bottom, and I'm going to call this main canister. I can hit the plus sign and open it up, and I can call that group right there detail. So this way when I go to texture it and assign materials later, it's a lot easier to see, and I'm going to call that base, or I could call it canister. That's done. There. So now I have some cool shapes happening on my rocket engine. I can still continue now to create other groupings. Okay, I can develop more shapes and add them in there, and I start to get what looks like a really cool rocket engine segment piece here. I can still continue to come in here. Oh, my top piece is gone, right? Display, show all, because I hit it real quick. Okay. Now I'm starting to get this really nice piece. Now, I made this piece in here, this little shelf piece. So I need to figure out how I could use that piece. So I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to bring it over. And that might be some type of mounting system that mounts to the back of the chair, let's say. So I might come in here. Now, I don't have a chair with me right now. Okay, you guys had a bunch of chair pieces. So I'm going to turn this at 90. I might get it to fit in about right here, like this. Might even come in and sort of put it right on the edge like that. Okay, see how that looks. Okay, I might even decide, you know what, I had that piece there, I made that extrusion, but you know what, I'm liking it now if it was going the other way. So I'm going to inverse that piece over like that. I'm going to take this, bring that over to there, bring it up to about here, square that off. And I'm going to go ahead and drop these down and see where, you know, maybe I need to get these mounted here into this surface, but they can't just be sitting on the edge like that. They could. I could probably get away with it, but just to be safe, I'm going to see if I can't come in here, take my independent selection, and move one of these over a little bit like this. Maybe move this guy over a little bit. And I can always duplicate them and reuse them. I'm going to go ahead and grab their vertices right here. Okay. Actually, I could grab vertices. I think I might just grab the face right now and extrude. So I'm going to go to face selection here. Grab this face and that face right there. Okay, go to edit mesh, extrude. I'm going to pull those shapes down. You see how that fits right into my rocket right there? I just got lucky. This looks sort of cool. And that could be part of my mounting plate that when I take my whole engine here. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and select my whole entire engine right now. Even though I haven't officially gone through and grouped it all, I'm going to group it. I want to position it and place it behind my chair. Okay, so I'm going to rotate it at a 90-degree angle like this. Okay, type this in here. Get it exactly at a 90. Okay, and real quick to show you one of the reasons why we always work on the X, Y, and the Z axis and what I call being plumb is that watch what would happen if I did this. If I decided to ungroup this and work on it right now, and I had it accidentally sloppily tilted like this, and I hit ungroup right now by coming up here and say edit ungroup, every one of my objects now has a slight turn or tilt on it, and it makes it all sloppy. And then if I went back to group this right now, if I group objects that are turned or tilted, okay, Maya sets all the scales back to 1, 1, 1, 1 when I group it. That's really crappy. So I'm going to command do, go back to where it was grouped. I'm going to make sure that this is tilted exactly at 90 and this is on 0 and 0. There, now it's nice and squared off. Now I can come in here and I can make any more modifications that I want. I could grab this, I can make this larger. I'm going to put some really cool detail on the end of my rocket right here. Well, I'm going to do that with a torus right now. I'm going to come in and grab a torus shape. I'm going to take my donut here, I'm going to rotate it up. Oops, that was really sloppy, I missed that. I grab the outside arrow. I hold shift, grab that inner line, I rotate it, I put it at 90 degrees. Okay, and I'm going to come back up. I'm going to move this shape out like so. I'm going to scale this guy up. Now what's going on here? Like Diana, you looked at this. That doesn't feel right as detail, right? No, it's huge. So I'm going to come down in here. I'm going to grab the section radius. That's way too low. Don't need to go to 1. What happens if I go to 2? That could be cool. So maybe I go to 1. Now some of us aren't too good at math. We need to remember a little bit about math. If I go under 0.1 right now, that's going to take me into the 0. So it'll be 0.09 and then go backwards that way. Okay? So if I want to go a little bit smaller, 0.09 would be the number before 0.1. See, it shrinks it down just a little bit more. Now I'm going to come in here under subdivisions here, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to increase my subdivisions so they're nice and round. Okay? I'm going to go ahead, scale this down from the center, and get it to wrap right around the tail end there. I'm going to put it on the end right here, and it's a little off-centered. That's fine. I can grab it, I can eyeball it, get it centered to about where I need it to be. Scale it back down in there a little bit more, like so. Okay? Now you'll notice if I put this on the very end like this, it needs to be a little bit bigger. So I can go to scale. Okay? Now scale is just going to go ahead and scale it from the outside. Okay? But what I need to do is I want to increase the section radius now to about 1 to make it look and feel a little bit thicker. Okay? I'm going to even go to now, what's after 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Right? And just lightly scale it up a little bit more. So if I look at it, get a position on both sides here, centered nice. That's feeling pretty cool. I have this nice little ring detail around the outside of my rocket engine now. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this shape. Now what happens if I duplicate this shape and I go to modify this and adjust it? Since I duplicated it, I lose my input selections, right? Right. So what I want to do is duplicate it and replace it. I'm going to take the shape that has the input selections, move it inward, grab this one, keep it here to the outside. Okay, now this is the one that has the input selections here. Now I can scale this down, and if I want to modify that thickness a little bit to like 10, I can. Okay, so then I have a couple, and I'm going to go ahead and make a couple little duplication lines there, right next to each other. Duplicate that, hold Shift D, okay? And again, I can't modify this one. Why? Because it doesn't have the input. So what I'm going to do is I duplicated that shape. I'm going to hide it real quick. And I can come down here and say Display, or actually it's just Control H. I'm going to look it up. It's just my hotkey. Now I'm going to move that one over a little bit more. I'm going to scale that down a little bit and see if I have to adjust it. Okay, hit Display, Show All. There's the other one I had there. This one feels about right. I'm going to duplicate that one. Okay, hide that one again. Oops. Take my original, bring it down a little bit more. Display, Show All. That way, if I need to scale this one down, I still have the input selections that I can modify to make sure it feels like a nice little bit of ring detail on my rocket. See that? Now I'm, and I could still come back in here and I could easily modify parts to my rocket. I mean, one thing that I don't like right now is I hate when pipes go right into another piece of geometry and they don't have a fitting. That's huge for me in terms of detail. So what I'm going to do is I can take this pipe here that I made, I can duplicate it, I can scale it down a little bit here. I'm going to enlarge it. Now this piece happened to be a little bit smaller, so I'm going to go ahead and enlarge this one, let's say to about there. Okay, and let me double check that. I'm going to bring it down a little bit like here, take the piece itself, I'm going to drop it down, oops, to like there, so I have a nice little fitting piece. However though, remember I duplicated that shape. It doesn't have a hollow piece to it. So what I can do is I can fill that. Edit, select the edge. If I come down under mesh here, I'm sorry, it's edit mesh, and I can go to fill hole. Okay, I always get confused. I have a hotkey set for it. There it is. It's under mesh. And now I can fill that hole. Do you see that? Okay, now something I forgot to mention to you. Do you remember when I duplicated those pieces? Okay, I'm going to ungroup my rocket engine here really quick. Edit, ungroup. When I duplicated these pieces here and here, I did that because I just selected this interior piece here with independent selection. What it did is Maya duplicated it but kept it in the same grouping. Okay, so if I click, remember I had made just this piece only right here. This piece only was grouped. But since I touched independent selection and grabbed this inner piece to make an outside tube here, example, duplicate that, put it over. When I come back and touch my original grouping, they're all still one group because Maya remembers that. So That might work for me now, and I could call these pipes and address that, but I would have to adjust that inside, you know, my outliner. Okay? There, so now I could come in here, I can do the same thing for these guys. I can put little fitting ends on it if I want. I could just go in here and I could keep modifying, you know. I even look at this and I'm like, you know what, I like this little stand piece here that I made. What if I duplicate this, figure out a way to get it mounted on the other side of this rocket engine to here? So what if I duplicate that piece? I'm going to bring it up here. I'm going to bring this back down here. It's really large right now. I'm going to see if I can scale that down perhaps. Okay. Let me scale it down a little bit more. Okay. See if I can't slide it right under the base of that piece right there. Okay. And maybe I'm going to slide it over a teeny bit like so to get it to sort of fit in there appropriately. Okay. Let me sort of look at it and see where it's, if I get it like that. Bring this end down about there. Okay. Now I'm going to look at this. And I have these intersecting at different parts right here. That's just fine. What I'm going to do right now is just grab these vertices here. Make sure it's not poking through that shape. So that one is. So what I'm going to do is come down here, grab the vertices of that particular object, and I'm going to scale it back up here to where it's just above the surface. Okay? I'm going to grab this one here, scale that down so it hits just the surface. Okay? And you'll also notice when I looked in there, what else is happening? One of my tubes of detail is coming in there. So I'll see if I can't move him over a teeny bit more, get him up a little. There. So now I just have to scale him up a tiny bit more to get him to pop out. I have that one doing the same thing. Go to scale, pop him out a little bit. There. So now my rocket engine looks clear in there. I click off of it. I don't see any other geometry. And right there I have a pretty cool looking little rocket engine that's pieced together. Okay? So now I can easily come in there. I can add more detail. I can modify it a little bit more. I can add a little rivets on it. Do what you want to do until your heart's content. Have fun with it. Okay? But that's basically for you. That took me about an hour to put together using primitives. But how did I start? I started with just the shape, and I made 4 or 5 other shapes. That's it. And then I blended all those shapes together. What I'm doing is I'm breaking this down into a simplified approach. Instead of having to model 20 hoses and 30 pieces, I made 5 or 6 shapes. And then I just duplicated them and modified them along my way. I used the 5 shapes to get me to, but now I might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, or 30 shapes in there. Okay? That's my base for my engine. Let's say I want to come in, I want to put a little canister hole there, whatever you want to do, whatever detail you feel like adding. This is going to be pretty cool right now. I really like the arches that are in there. I like them so much that I'm tempted to come in here and figure out other ways I can use them. So maybe if I just take this guy here, take that grouping, I'm going to duplicate that. See if I can't find another fitting down here. Maybe I can take that and rotate it in at another angle. Like about there. Okay, that's at 90. Up, it's at negative. I need to put that to -0. So it's squared up. And see if I can't get it sort of symmetrical in here like this. Maybe get it to pop out a little bit like so. Right? That's pretty cool. I'm going to grab it, drag it into the side of the shape here. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments to where I adjusted these earlier. So how do I fix that real quick? I go to my vertices here. Okay, I'm going to grab these vertices. What am I going to use here? My scale tool. So I'm going to scale these down. Bring them down to where that hits that surface there. Select the upper set of vertices. Pull that down to where it hits the surface there. Now it looks like it mounts in there. Let me look inside my object here real quick. Nothing's poking through. That's good to go. Excuse me for a minute. Let me go ahead and get squared up on this. I want to look in here at an angle and see what that's hitting. That's not really hitting anything that's really affecting it. What I could do if I wanted to is to make it look like there's a plate that goes in here. I'm going to go to face. I'm going to select that edge right there. Okay. I'm going to come over here and do an extrusion again. Extrude. I'm going to scale it. Oops, not that way. I meant to grab the yellow arrow. Oh, and it just happens to be doing it differently. Sometimes Maya does this. So after I've hit extrude, I'm just going to go back to the individual move key, and I'm going to take that piece there. Might even scale it up a little bit more. And then I'm going to go extrude again. Okay. Oops. Just hit something else. Extrude. I'm going to grab that piece and slide that piece over here and see what that's hitting. You know what? I'm not going to see inside that piece. I'm just going to slide it all the way in like that. So there. Now it looks like I have another mounting bracket piece that's holding. But when I'm looking at that, I'm like, man, I could use another tube back there. So now I can grab some tubes, duplicate them, move them over, and keep adding little bits of detail more and more to my rocket engine. So that's sort of my base rocket engine I could take. And what's great about this, now that I have this piece, I can modify that. Watch. I can take this guy, okay, I'm going to group them into one big piece now, a masterpiece, okay, center the pivot on him. I can duplicate him and imagine that they just made twins to this guy. Take my scale tool, right, scale him the opposite direction, type in -1, okay, move that guy over a little bit. And now I can come over here, take something simple like that tube shape that I had. So let's say I want to steal the tube that I have in there. Duplicate my rocket piece, bring it over here, go under Edit. I'm going to ungroup. Part of modeling is about using your pieces over and over and being familiar with what you have. Okay, I ungroup this, so I'm going to group all these pieces back together here. Oops, this one, that one, that one, that one, there, there. Okay, I might even take a hose later. I'm going to group that. I'm now going to grab this piece. Uh-oh, that's what happened. That's why my group, I had it accidentally selected through that. I should have checked with my see-through setting. I'm going to delete the pieces I don't need. I'm going to go ahead and just select all this like this, group them, center. I'm now going to duplicate this piece right here. I'm going to bring this over. I'm going to raise it up. You see how now I've just made a main fuel tank? I'm going to come over here, go to vertices. I'm going to select this half of the vertices and I'm going to stretch them. Look at that. I've now made a duplicate, and it looks like I have twin rocket engines with a fuel tank that looks like I can now add wings on there. I could put the chair right in the middle or a little sofa. I have tons of options that I can do. I could use this any way that I want. And again, how did I get to, and when you look at it, when you guys are going to be working on your piece here, someone's going to look at this. Okay? And go ahead and select this stuff and hide it. They're going to be like, dude, that looks awesome. How long did that take you? You're like, oh, I just made 6 simple parts. Took me 20 minutes, let's say. Okay? Once I have the parts there, it saves me a tremendous amount of time. So now if I want to make another version of my rocket chair, am I going to start making new parts again? No. I'm going to come back to my original parts here, duplicate them, modify them, add to them, extrapolate from them, add some tanks on here. I mean, I could have, the one thing I haven't set yet is scale. Okay, really quickly. So I haven't established what scale is. So by establishing scale, that changes everything inside my piece here. Okay, give me a second here. And let me add a subdivision here. I'm going to really fast indicate why scale is important to you guys. Especially in the world of drawing and design, scale is everything. Okay? Okay. There's my little chair, right? If I take my chair right now Shift, grab that green arrow, rotate it, and go type in -90 right here, right? One more time, -90, there it goes. Okay. And if I get my chair up here, scale is everything to my piece. If that chair is right there, that guy has made a pretty badass rocket chair, right? That rocket chair, it looks fun because it almost looks cartoony in a sense. Not cartoony in the design, but it's so huge, I couldn't imagine the G's that chair would actually push, okay, if that rocket took off. Now, if I take that chair and I do this, that rocket engine changes dramatically, doesn't it? Because of the scale. So, when you guys are modeling your pieces, you're going to set the scale. Okay, when you're making your rocket chair, you're going to decide with your chair how that rocket is going to interact with it. You know, because look at this. If I did a couch, and there's my couch, I might now have to come in and say, well, the couch is, this is composition. The couch is now larger than the rockets. It's not as important. Well, I guess I'm going to have to group and duplicate my rocket engines and have dual sets. Okay, right? Or maybe that's not it. Maybe if I Command Z and go back here, there's something that I like about that. Okay? So you get to set the scale. You're the designer. Scale is always important. We're just starting off with some base primitives here and making some simple shapes, but when you get into big complex worlds, the intermediate students are working on a futuristic city, scale is everything to them. If the scale isn't right, the city isn't right. Okay? So, all right, so that's pretty much, that's going to conclude today's lecture on that. What I might end up doing is I get into this and I miss modeling, you know what I mean? And I have such a good time. I want to dive back into it and start making couches and cushions and come up with really fun shapes. But, you know, there's a lot for me to do here. Now I need to think about how am I going to mount this to here. I mean, I could come in here really quickly to my chair and I could just extrude something back. I could take this piece right here. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. I could take that piece right there and I could bullion part of that and I could put a mounting bracket there. Reuse your pieces. Simplify your life, right? Don't go back and remodel everything. Reuse it and adapt those pieces and change them as you go forward. What you end up doing is you end up building a visual library for yourself that you own the rights to with all these parts. So whenever I'm working, okay, when I worked professionally for 15 years, I started modeling in 2000. So from 2003 on, I really developed a huge library of parts. Still to this day, there's no real, let me end this real quick and I'll continue.